I'm Vercoil, and this is part 11 of Call of Cthulhu. Nope.
Who goes there?
That was the Leviathan. Okay, I'm back in the Hawkins Manor.
A nightmare again. I need a drink.
It's daytime. Oh, it's Mary Colden. I thought that was Sarah Hawkins. Oh. So I got far enough that I got out. Oh, boy. Alright, let's find out what's going on. Oh, boy.
You're awake, Mr. Pierce. How do you feel?
Like I've been run over?
Did I sleep long?
The day is only starting. It's fine.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
Well...
There are things I can't explain.
Tell us. What happened?
Sarah Hawkins was the object of a cult. Talked to Bradley. What they had me endure. I might be onto a lead. Talked to Colden. Okay, let's start with Bradley. You did see Charles was alive. I can't see medicine because that. You and Dr. Colden for psychology, but I could be too low because... Anyway, you did see Charles was alive.
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on him.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
Seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
Unlocked answer. Your memory seems to be failing you.
Bradley, what do you remember?
Ooh.
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion. You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital and called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
Okay, so... I'll try, but I don't think it's strong enough.
You two know each other pretty well.
It's a tiny island. Everyone knows everyone. Especially since I'm a police officer and Marie's a doctor.
The chemistry is obvious.
Oh, look at his face.
I do seem a little bit stupid, don't I? Anyway, let's get back to the business at
I like
hand.
that. That was a nice little moment. Okay. Talk to Colden. Did Fuller found Riverside? Here we go.
Given the energy he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Three.
Most island families
The captain
are
of the
that
Scylla.
way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, and as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
I saw dead bodies.
Dr. Fuller seems to be leaving a trail of corpses.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention those strange machines, chains, and tools of all kind.
Oh.
Yes. I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do you even hear what you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
You were there.
It's the truth, Ethan. And I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
Oh. Alright. What I could say. Sarah Hawkins was an object of a cult. Very true. What they had me endure? Yep. I might be onto a lead? Yep. Let's start with the object of the cult.
I saw people in hoods. They had stolen Mrs. Hawkins' paintings.
Who are you talking about? Why would they do such a thing?
I don't know, but they were a threat. They've taken over the caves under the mansion. They were performing some kind of ritual. One of the entryways was under Charles Hawkins' office.
We suspect Mr. Hawkins of being involved.
My patients believe the old islanders used to worship primitive sea gods. Could they be the focus of the cult?
Am I hearing this right?
Yep.
Someone did deface Brendan's statue.
Delinquents. Hoodlums. You got nothing more solid than that?
Let's go with what they had me endure.
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller and a nurse. Blood everywhere. My legs, the pain, I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed demented.
Well,
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
good
What
question.
happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine. Horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You
Dude,
should believe it, Ethan. What Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
I might be onto a lead.
I met a Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins, and that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
Not gonna believe this.
I'm not sure I can explain it.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
He called him the Shambler, or a sort of crisis. Both are true. I'm not sure what these entail. I imagine what he called the Shambler might be dismissed, but also the sort of crisis may also be incorrect. They need to know the severity of the situation, right? What sort of crisis? Okay, let's go with the Shambler.
I didn't see what, but something was there with us.
Oh, yes.
Of what do you speak?
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
Yeah.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say? That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having dinner at the Sanders household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
Obviously.
I don't agree. She deserves the truth.
Also true.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
Also true. What do you say? You either tell the widow, the now widow, that her husband was killed by some sort of paranormal force, or you don't reveal the fact that he's dead, or that you saw him die. Which is a bit cold, really. Plus, Sanders mentioned that because we met Sanders and that he mentioned the Shambler, that now we know about the Shambler and we're in trouble because it knows that we know. So if we stay prudent, the Widow Sanders shouldn't be killed by a horror from beyond the stars, right?
You're right. Without a plausible explanation for what I saw, let's not jump to conclusions.
That seems wise indeed.
This will affect your
Very
destiny.
well. I'll go to see Francis's widow. Perhaps I'll find a link between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
I'll do my best.
Oh boy. Okay, hello.
Let us go now and learn the truth about what's happening on this island.
You know, you sound very familiar. Bit like Liara Tassoni from Mass Effect.
The other night's events are still confused in my head.
Oh yeah. Alright. Is there anything new around here to see? Oh, someone's cleaned up. But why would someone clean up? Like, it's very clean in here now. Well, not very, but a lot cleaner. To what end? Like, selling the estate? Maybe. Can I open this? No, that's to leave. So I assume the other one does the exact same thing, right? Well, I shouldn't say assume, because assume means something... Let's not touch the drink. We don't need being drunk on top of the horror show that is this situation. Alright. Let's check the data we got before we continue. Okay, we have 3 points available. Excellent. So 6, 5. So we should pump those into spot hidden. Because good things come to those who can see. Oh, that is a big hit. That's a lot of sanity down. The ordeals you have gone through have left their mark, but you still manage as best as you can. You keep your mind busy in order to chase away doubts and painful memories. You still have some way to go. Who knows where your mind could lead you along the paths of insanity? Oh, yay. So I missed a nightmare. Anyway. The weirdness of Francis Sanders' death went far beyond anything Pierce had ever seen. Lifted off his feet by an invisible force, the poor man's body was carried into the air before being thrown violently against the bars of his hiding place. Pierce, powerless, watched the limbs break and Sanders' body crumble to the ground. During long moments of agony, the detective saw nothing that could explain this event. Weakened by his wounds and the operation he could remember undergoing, Pierce begins to question his ability to tell the difference between reality and the nightmares that haunt him. That's real bad! Okay. Alright, we got some new information apparently. Charles Hawkins. Charles Hawkins is alive? Despite its crude and deformed appearance, this thing looked like Hawkins. He attacked Bradley after he recognized him. What could have happened to Charles on the night of the fire? I've never seen a major burns victim in such a state. Something's not right. Yeah, that's a bit different, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Mary Colton. Marie? Age 32, occupation doctor. Officer Bradley's female friend works as general practitioner at the Riverside Institute. She had figured out long before I arrived that Fuller was involved in illegal activities. She wants to shed full light on the nature of his experiments and believes that helping me to solve the Hawkins case could advance an investigation. Not much new in there, to be fair. This, though. Francis Sanders, age 47, occupation art dealer, deceased. Francis Sanders knew Sarah Hawkins so well that he accused her of being the source of his suffering. Oh. The man gouged his eyes out with his own hands and smeared the walls of his cell with esoteric symbols. He seemed to be obsessed with a shambler linked to Sarah Hawkins. He died before my eyes in circumstances that I cannot explain. Oh boy. And Dr. Fuller, age 52, occupation Riverside Senior Physician. Dr. Fuller reigns as the undisputed master of the Riverside Institute and its cellars, in which he carries out illegal experiments on his patients. I don't know what he has done to me, but I shouldn't be back on my feet so soon after my fall when the tunnels under the Hawkins Manor caved in. This man is dangerous, and I'd swear that he knows more about all this business than he is willing to tell, considering we haven't talked to him. But I suspect these may not be the sons of the three from the ship. I think they may be the same people who killed the Leviathan or hunted it. Cellars of the Riverside Institute. Strictly speaking, I didn't spend much time in the hospital. When I woke up, I was immediately transferred into the cellars of the Institute, a sort of clandestine asylum, where Dr. Fuller carried out his experiments on patients without being troubled. Unknown machines sit beside anatomical drawings that are disturbing, to say the least. I just managed to escape from this place. I might not have as much luck another time. Also, I noticed in the flashback, when I was going over the footage, that when they were injecting Edward with the glowing syringe, there were the anatomical drawings on the chalkboards nearby of mutations. Not a good sign. A cult. Okay, what's new? The cult symbol. Yep. Disappeared tribe and the sleeping cultist. They're not actually new. Clues. Chapter 5. The medical record of Francis Sanders. Psychosis. Chapter 6. Nothing so far. Nothing new in my inventory. Okay, it's time to go and visit Widow Sanders. Chapter 6. Sanders' residence. Pierce, Colden, and Bradley decided to team up to solve the Sarah Hawkins case. They have a new trail to follow. Francis Sanders, an art collector and friend of the painter who died right in front of Pierce. The detective goes to his house in order to speak to his widow about the Shambler that the unfortunate man mentioned before he died. I'm not sure telling her about the Shambler is a good idea. I'm just going to say now that spreading the knowledge of this thing, which was against Sanders' wish, he said, "Don't, you shouldn't have met me. Now you know you shouldn't know." Bad, very bad. More people know, the more it could potentially come after. So telling the Widow Sanders about the Shambler might not be the best plan. But here we are.
What can I do for you, sir?
Mrs. Sanders, I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may. However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
That is precisely what brings me here.
Oh, hello, cat.
Well, look who's here.
Shh. Hello.
You know each other.
We met briefly. Time enough to iron out a few matters. The brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
Well,
It's a small island, detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're investigating Francis' death. Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very well, Miss Baker. This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me.
yep. Oh,
May I
boy.
inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday, I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned. You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger. were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
Okay, here's the rub. You must not feel guilty. He died screaming right before my eyes. I was no longer there when it happened, or you're taking it quite well. I'm still not sure that spreading knowledge about the Shambler is a good idea, especially what he said and how he was attacked. The implication is that the Shambler is coming after Pierce next because he was there. Sanders also said, don't look at it. Let's go with... I was no longer there when it happened, but first we'll go with the psychology. You must not feel guilty.
What happened to your husband is terrible, Mrs. Sanders. But from what I saw, it was inevitable. The man I met yesterday had lost his reason. He suffers no longer, if you would allow me such a platitude.
Of course. Thank you for your kind words. Nobody in that hospital would have deigned to speak them to me. However, it will require more than that to soothe my mind. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes? Did you not do anything to help him?
So it just said this will affect your destiny. Well, it was up here. But, I share your grief, but I had nothing to do with it. Is eloquence. It says test eloquence. The true culprit is Fuller. It wasn't me who sent him there. This one, the true culprit is Fuller, is brighter than the rest. She might not believe me, but she is acquainted to Kat, who is, because of her mafioso gang leader position, is against the old guard. Let's go with the true culprit is Fuller.
So ask Fuller, he's the eminent doctor. But I would caution you, you'll find his treatments more terrifying than the illnesses he sets out to cure.
Bit harsh.
That churl no longer takes the trouble to receive me. He sends his secretary to tell me that I cannot see Francis. Me. His own widow. He must think that I am a terrible wife for having abandoned him in such a way. But I only wanted what was best for him.
I'm not here to condemn you, Mrs. Sanders.
Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
And also, that again said this will affect your destiny. Not telling her about the Shambler was one. Telling her to blame Fuller was two. How do you know Sarah Hawkins? She doesn't. Husband does. What is Kat doing here? Might not get a true answer. Tell me more about this dimensional Shambler. Which is odd because I don't recall Sanders saying dimensional. I shouldn't keep looking over my other screen. I get distracted by myself. For some reason I think the camera's over here. Okay. How do you know Sarah Hawkins?
How did you come to meet Sarah Hawkins?
We were the wealthiest and most influential families on Darkwater. Of course we would know each other. And when Charles returned from Europe with his sweet little artist, she and her sinister paintings were destined to catch my husband's eye. He bought many of her works over the last 5 years. They adorn his macabre gallery.
That's not good. If the paintings are cursed, having a collection in one spot is probably what summoned the Shambler in the first place. Yes? Because if they each by themselves have a cursed, sort of a cursed aura, then a collection of them in one place would intensify that. What is Kat doing here?
May I ask you what Miss Baker is doing here? How do you know her?
My business with Miss Baker is private, Mr. Pierce.
But you do know what kind of business Miss Baker is in.
You're pushing your luck.
I am no fool. Please believe that much, at least.
Didn't mean to imply that. Here we go. I didn't want to ask her about this. Tell me about this dimensional Shambler.
I deduce that your husband already mentioned this dimensional Shambler.
Well, you can imagine that's all he talked about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The Shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else to paint such horrors? Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Yes, you do.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it, I would urge you to make the most of your visit. Because I count on ridding myself of that thing as soon as I can.
Very good idea.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long.
Not good. Not good at all. At all. I've been Vercoil, and this has been part 11 of Call of Cthulhu. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. Leave a message, subscribe maybe. I'm going to be at this for a while, and I imagine dealing with people who don't believe that what is going on is going to become a more common theme until things go really wrong. So, anyway. Sorry. Thanks for watching. Bye.